Okay. Great, so let's do the roll call. Stacy Melvin.
Here.
Ian Kindle.
Here.
Robert McDonald. Here. Mary Arleo.
Here.
Tom Bridget. Here. Kate Simmons. Paul. Here. Shala. Here. Brandon Sullivan. Here. Ron Christopher. Okay. All right. First on the agenda is the approval of our agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda for tonight?
I'll motion.
Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Say
Aye.
Aye.
All right, passes 5-0. Next up is the August minutes approval. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve.
Mary has motioned. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Stacy has seconded. All in favor of approving the August minutes, say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? All right, the motion passes. And so we will begin with the main item on the agenda, which is a presentation about a dark skies movement. So Mary will take the lead on this.
Stacy.
I'm sorry, Stacy will take the lead on this.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm a little discombobulated. So we'll have the panel for about 45 minutes. I'd ask that everyone keep their questions until the end. At the end of the panel, I will recognize anybody who wants to ask questions to the panelists, and we'll have 15 to 20 minutes of discussion at that point. And then after that, we'll have public comments about any general matters. I apologize for the slight disruption. I'm not used to running a meeting quite this formally. So hopefully we'll all get through this together. So Stacy, if you want to take it away and introduce our guests.
Hi, yes. So tonight we're going to be talking about dark sky. And so our community is about protecting our health, supporting businesses, reducing costs, and keeping its historic charm alive, while still ensuring safety and vibrancy after dark. When we get lighting right, it makes us feel safer, more welcoming, and more connected to its natural beauty and riverfront character. We're fortunate tonight to have 3 leaders who've been at the forefront of the Dark Sky Initiative in other cities. Our first guest is Dr. Quick. He's an architect, urban designer, and professor at Carnegie Mellon University. He helped guide Pittsburgh's dark sky ordinance, showing that lighting can be both functional and environmentally responsible. Our next guest is Flore Marion, Pittsburgh's Assistant Director of Sustainability and Resilience, where she turns climate goals into action through smart, measurable policies. And our final guest is Bill McGeeney, founder of Light Pollution News, who draws expert perspectives worldwide to show how better lighting protects wildlife, improves public health, and enhances safety. Please join me in welcoming them. So to start at the beginning, Dr. Quick, were there any environmental, economic, or community concerns that prompted this action?
Well, it actually started with the city's initiative and working with one of the Pittsburgh foundations to undertake a couple of studies beginning in 2010 about the conversion to LED streetlights in the city. And so Carnegie Mellon, through the Remaking Cities Institute, performed those studies. I led both of those projects. And we came up with a series of specifications for just the streetlights themselves, and then later adding controls to the streetlights. And those sort of formed the basis for at least my knowledge about street lighting and so on. But I also joined the Dark Sky International, which was at that time the International Dark Sky Association. and did a study on campus about photographing streetlights and lights at night using drones, which also got us a little bit looking at it from a different perspective about the impact of lighting at night. And I currently am a member of the Pennsylvania Dark Sky Association, which is part of the International Dark Sky Association, and sort of on the board there. So getting started into this, in a sense, with the city of Pittsburgh lighting, after we submitted both studies under the former mayor, there was quite an effort that began, and Flore was part of that, to really look into how these might be turned into some type of an ordinance. And so I was just sort of an informal consultant on that aspect of it, but really the work that the city of Pittsburgh put together was really led by Flore and a couple of other people during that time.
Thank you. And my next question would be, how did you build political and public support among residents, business owners, and local officials? And this would be more so for Flore.
So like Steve touched on, the effort around dark sky started a long time ago, and it made it to the re-election campaign of former Mayor Bill McGeeney. Not that he led his campaign with that, but among all of the promises that was in there. And so when we got around our third iteration of putting a project together for our streetlight, we brought back that promise from the campaign trail around dark sky, and reach out to the Dark Sky Association and start developing language. So there was not a very hard launch effort around that, because it's been percolating in the climate and sustainable work of Pittsburgh for several years before we joined. So we did talk to our park department, we did talk to our public works department and our public safety internally extensively to make sure they had an understanding of what it was. And we also had a couple of public meetings. But we really relied on there was a general awareness of the benefit of dark sky built by Stephen and Diane along the years, including a light out effort from our aviary, zoo, and a botanical garden. So the outreach was more done by these groups over many years of their light out effort around better lighting for nocturnal animals.
Thank you. And Bill, from what you've seen globally, what's been the most effective way communities can start making the case? Is it through health, wildlife, or cost saving?
Well, I'll take a stab at that. For just about every city across the country, it's really been cost savings. The amount of savings just for the lights themselves, they cost about the same as the high pressure sodium lights. But where they really save the city's money is in the long-term cost of the fixture because of its long life, and also the maintenance costs. But in terms of the other costs, is a tremendous savings in energy. They are anywhere from 60 to probably 80% more efficient than high pressure sodiums. And so for the amount of, just as you've converted from incandescent to LED light bulbs in your own houses, you've seen that it only takes a few watts of an LED light bulb to be equivalent to that of a filament or an incandescent light bulb. So so you're using a fraction of the energy to really light that LED. But the other real savings, which is not talked about very much, is the maintenance cost. The typical lamp in a high pressure sodium fixture lasts only about 2.5 years, whereas an LED fixture lasts about 10 years. So in the amount of time that an LED fixture loses 30% of its efficiency, you have probably replaced the bulb in the light fixture probably 3, if not 4 times. Each time it's changed, you're paying the cost, and it's really a labor cost here, of somebody with a bucket truck to go out and open up that light fixture, change the bulb, get it back and make sure it's lit back on. Well, each time you're probably paying for anywhere from 2 to 4 hours of labor, plus the costs, the out-of-pocket costs for gas and all that stuff. Anyway, it almost is equivalent to the amount of money that you save by energy. So the maintenance savings and the energy savings, both together, make it a pretty compelling argument to switch to LED lighting.
Yeah, and I'll reiterate that the maintenance cost is a great justification tool for the investment in the control. If you're gonna add control to your system, it will cost you more, but the spending we had on just maintenance for verifying which light bulbs were broken and going to change them was a really big part of our city budget. And so by investing in the control now, we're saving this maintenance expense every year for the next 10+ years, and it really really makes the argument compelling.
Thank you. And Bill, from your perspective, what strategies have worked best to encourage reducing light pollution?
That's a good question. Really depends on what the community's looking to do, looking to what purpose they're looking to serve with the ordinance. I think when you're in any ecological zone, there's so much evidence about how light affects ecology. It's a no-brainer that, you know, that should be the driving force, is managing the light, providing adequate lighting, but also no spillover lighting in the areas that shouldn't have any spillover lighting. When you come across, you know, areas of crime and safety, I think that a lot of that comes down to how you actually provide a coexistence between a feeling of safety and kind of like a responsible approach to how you're going to light the area. So that it really depends on the objective that's trying to be solved.
Thank you. Dr. Quick, how did Pittsburgh's approach to replacing or modifying existing street lighting and public lighting infrastructure?
It was a long process, and I think I mentioned it when in my first response was, it started back in 2010, and the foundations were a big help in sponsoring the study to really look at how to do street lighting really well. We had after about 2 years, the city did get money from the state to install about 3,500 LEDs, picking from off the shelf just what was available at the time, and with some guidance from us. However, the decisions were made on, I think, other factors than really our studies at the time. We did recommend, in a sense, from the lighting characteristics, that the one they chose was the better of the 3 that were being studied at the time. But what it was, and those only went into the commercial areas, neighborhood shopping areas and downtown, and a few, say, arterial streets, the major arterial streets. So it really did not make it into the residential areas per se. We found out a lot about that. In fact, of having that kind of experiment told us a lot. The lights were way too bright. And the coloration was not particularly good on them. And we had no way of controlling them. We could not dim them. They were on full power all the time, 24, well, every time that light came on, and was only managed by a photo cell. So they went on at dusk and off at dawn. So basically 12 hours out of every day, you're powering up the lights on full power. So that's why when we did later studies, we got into the management of them, of how you can turn them off individually, how you could manage them by dimming them, and so on, have much more control over the true effect of it. We learned an awful lot about through the process. The LEDs are just naturally brighter. And that's just because of the way that the LEDs produce the light itself. And when you look at the light spectrum, they are a full spectrum light, such that very similar to sunlight in respect of looking at the graph of the wavelengths. All the colors are reproduced in LED lights the same as an incandescent light, or even as the same as sunlight. The fact where LEDs really differ is the blue spectrum. They spike higher in the blue spectrum than any of the other colors in the wavelengths. And the blues are really where the problems lie with the LEDs. They not only create the brightness, but they are also effective, as a lot of studies have shown, of being really detrimental to human health, wildlife health, even plant life and sea creatures. They've all shown that we are affected simply because it really plays havoc with our circadian rhythm and that of all living things. So it's you have to be very careful when you are selecting streetlights to make sure that you want to diminish the amount of blue in the color spectrum as much as possible, and you do that by looking for LED lights that are where the warm colors, such as the 2200 Kelvin, which is the color of the high pressure sodium lights, or 2700 Kelvin, which is equivalent to about an incandescent light bulb, but not to go over 3000 Kelvin in terms of the color temperature, which is at the far end of the warm color spectrum. Then you go into medium color and then cool colors, and so on. So coloration becomes a real factor in the LED selections.
Thank you. Flore, what was the verification process, inspections, audits, or testing, and what design principles ensure dark sky compliance while maintaining safety in historic or mixed use districts?
So we added the requirement in our code. So I think one of the first steps is to know where in your municipal code your dark sky ordinance would fit well. And once we did that work, it was there. So then we just put that in our procurement RFP language, and then we just verified that that the vendor were indeed matching the requirement. But we're not actually, I didn't go in the street yet, Steve, to confirm that indeed they are, but I think they are. I talked to Diane, and it feels like they are dark sky compliant, but we don't have an actual verification process. So maybe that's something you guys can do better than us. Think about the step to ensure compliance here. And you had a second part to your question. We're also going to measure the impact on energy savings. We were waiting for the end of the project. We just started in June. If you guys travel to Pittsburgh, you can come to the north side. Most of them are installed there. But we really start quantifying the saving once all of them have been rolled out for a full year. So I can come back to you for energy savings in maybe 2 or 3 years.
Okay, thank you. And then just to follow up, was there any state, federal, or nonprofit grants or programs that help fund this transition?
No, I think we use ARPA funding actually, now that I'm thinking about it, but no grants specifically from the state. However, there is some rebate program from the utilities, so I encourage you to look into that. Once the project is deployed, you can start getting reimbursements for rebates if they're still around by that time. And like Steve mentioned, for the studies, they got foundation funding for some preliminary work, but not for the implementation itself.
Thank you. And Dr. Quick, what measurable cost savings such as energy maintenance or replacements have you observed so far? And do you by any chance know what the expected payback period for lighting retrofits?
As I explained earlier, the real savings are in the longer life, and therefore the maintenance costs and the replacement costs, and the energy savings. Return on investment, I can't answer that question specifically. Flore, I wonder if you did ROI studies for the Pittsburgh.
I don't have the ROI number here. Like I said, I will quantify it once we know the true saving. There's also the specific, I think each region is slightly different, but we own our streetlight, but we pay the bill based on the type of streetlight. So we're not measuring the saving exactly. We have an agreement with our utility about how much this type of streetlight is supposed to use, and therefore they charge us for that. So we won't have the exact saving to the kilowatt, but that depends on our utility. So I think I would encourage you to do that. But we will negotiate with them, knowing that LED save more. We're coming to an agreement on how much savings. So we think there will be around $800,000 saving a year at the very least at the beginning. I think we're being conservative here. I think it's going to be more, even more with the cost of electricity rising every year in Pennsylvania. And then about half of that in maintenance. Like I said, if you look at our streetlight maintenance in the past years, you'll see how much we were spending on that, and we just won't have this expense anymore. So it will pay back pretty quickly.
I think there's a factor that Flore mentioned, and it's really who owns the streetlights is a big factor in this. Some cities, the utilities own the streetlights. Other cities, the cities own all the streetlights. In Pittsburgh's case, it was a half and half solution where the city owns all of the streetlights, which are on metal poles, but they rent the streetlights and pay the utility to place the arms and the lights onto utility poles, all the wooden telephone poles in the city, which are by far the great majority. So you really have to look at where the ownership of the lights rests, and then what kind of let's say a deal can be worked out between the utility and the city. That's generally a negotiated type of situation if the utility is involved in either in some way of supporting or the cost of the streetlights themselves.
So I can provide some insight to that. I'm the sustainment coordinator for the city of Easton. Thank you all on the panel for coming and doing this for us. But in regards to ownership of our lights, Stacy wanted me to just emphasize or explain where we're at. While MedEd owns, I would say, about 2/3 of the lights here in the city, we own about 1/3. Over 400 or so are city owned. The other 1,277, have that number memorized now, are owned by MedEd. And those are all currently in the moment of being converted to LED, thanks to a MedEd program where they're trying to finish every light in Easton's upgrade by the Q1 of 2026. That process right now is organizing streetlights originally in groups of 100 based on geographic location, now in groups of 50. In an attempt to stay on that deadline. It makes it easier for them to do it in groups of 50 than it does in groups of 100. We also had a conversation, Stacy and I in person here in Easton with someone from MedEd, I believe someone on the admin team. I wish I had her name in my head, but she expressed that they would also consider dimmers in the future, but right now the priority really is just getting those LED upgrades done. We are the pilot city for an entire upgrade and retrofit for a citywide LED program through MedEd. So just to provide context.
So back to some of the other additional questions that we have, which is this one's for Flore. What measurable environmental improvements have you seen, whether in energy savings, reduced light pollution, wildlife protection, or improved night sky visibility? And by any chance, do you know who reports this data?
Sorry, I was still on mute. I think Diane and Steve will record some of the data for us and work with NASA to get some pictures. We'll be tracking the energy savings. We'll be tracking the utility bill savings. However, I can already tell you that the light quality is really much better. It is not darker. I want to insist on that because it's called dark sky. So people sometimes fear it's going to be so much dark and they're not going to see what they're doing. It is actually brighter, but in the right places. So the light is more directed to the sidewalk and the street. The feedback I have from residents is all over very happy. They feel the streets are safer. The light, because the light is closer to sunlight or incandescent, it feels more natural, more real. So the perception are safer. So it's overall really, really great feedback from the residents that benefited from the project already.
And then, how can Easton build a compliance process that holds vendors and utilities accountable without overburdening city staff? And this one's for Flore.
That is a good question. I mean, honestly, compliance was easy once we made the requirement in the RFP process. So I think the tricky part here is that you don't own all of your light. You only own a portion of that. So that compliance should be easy for you. You need to train your public works staff and bring them in the loop. Are they in the room here? If they're not, they should be in the next discussion, because it's going to be whoever is in charge of streetlight now is going to be in charge of dark sky streetlight. So you really make sure that they are on board and understand what's happening. And then I think you need to work on building the relationship with the utility to make sure they make the ask for the dark sky compliance, and then ensure during the RFP process that all of the vendors are indeed answering that portion of the RFP, and create a mechanism to refuse the project if they somehow don't meet that component of it. Because there's less maintenance and there's more reliability, overall LED will make everybody's life easier. So it should be pretty straightforward to get buy-in from staff, I think.
Thank you. And Bill, have you received feedback from experts about effects on safety, quality of life, or nighttime activities?
That's a good question. So safety is something that there's no real consensus on. And I think that sits in a bucket of like, there's much more effective ways to handle safety than there is by installing a light. In saying that, there are things that light can do to help improve feelings of safety. And the reason I say this is because I haven't had experts tell me anything about safety, but we have plenty of studies out there that sit kind of in a very gray area. And oftentimes they indicate that lighting improves safety in gentrified areas. So areas that have investment are going to have safer places at night, which I don't know how well that corresponds to safety. Now, that doesn't discount the need for a feeling of safety, because people want to feel safe in their surroundings, feel safe in their environment. That's a product of someone's perception, and that is a need that comes from some of the lighting. On the health side, there's, Steve's already mentioned some of it. I had Dr. Marion on, and I've come across plenty of good articles. The consensus in health is that there's circadian impacts, usually metabolic impacts from light at night. And in general, it's from bluer light at night, but just light at night is going to affect you. So the trick, to having good lighting, really, in my mind, in my estimation, is by not having that lighting going into people's homes. So having street lighting that actually hits where it's intended to go, on the street, on the sidewalk, and not in the windows. And I think that's a very challenging, maybe next level for street LED conversions.
I might add that the other things that we with the Dark Skies group say is turn the lights off if you don't need them. And there's no reason that street lights have to burn or lit for the full 12 hours. We just really are looking for responsible lighting. In other words, you have light when you really need it, and that's generally in the early evening hours, and most accidents occur at dusk when you're transitioning from daylight to nighttime. And the lighting sometimes works against you during that dusk period where the conversion takes place, and your eyes don't see as well. But after the city sort of shuts down, it's 11 o'clock or midnight, whatever it is, there's no reason to keep the lights on full until dusk, because you can see pretty well once you adjust to the lower light levels. So that's why management controls the ability to dim the lights is an important feature to really be dark sky compliant as best as possible.
I want to also circle back to something I said real fast on the safety side. There's two studies that everyone should be aware of. There's one out of one that's recently come out here in Philadelphia regarding lighting as a reduction to crime. And I have trouble with the actual article itself. It doesn't disentangle the national trend of reduced crime post-COVID. Instead, it attributes all the benefit directly to the street lighting team here. It just doesn't feel like a good study, honestly. That came out of University of Pennsylvania. There's one out of Leeds that is, in my mind, a much more realistic approach to how you kind of study the cost benefit on the crime side. And they found that there was no statistical evidence of lighting during a lighting conversion in Leeds over in England, that there was no statistical evidence that there was a crime reduction. Again, you know, there's better ways to handle crime. Throwing up lights doesn't solve your problems.
And do you have any recommendations? What would be the most effective way to reiterate this to the general public?
To reiterate the safety aspect?
Correct. Because there is this information that, the brighter the lights, the safer people are going to feel. And when we're focusing on, like trespass and just getting that message across to the public, about, we're not here about dismantling lights and just making it smarter.
Yeah, I think in general, here's the thing about light pollution. You can have your cake and eat it too. If you're smart about how you do lighting, if you place it well, if you have good shielding, you have a good color index on it, and it's a moderate amount, you can have your cake and eat it too. It's not like this is a zero-sum game. The good thing about lighting is that it helps you be able to see when you're walking, helps people, who may not feel comfortable walking at night, be able to see around them. The downside is that a lot of it's implemented poorly. And that's where you have the issues. It's not really the fact that the lights there are specifically causing problems. It's the implementation of lights, it's the installation of the lights, it's how the lights actually are in effect. Now, for individuals, I would never go to someone and say, we need to turn off the lights, because that's not what people want. I don't think anyone here on this panel would say, turn off the lights. That's not what people want. People don't want street lights off. Instead, what you should do is manage the street lights in a responsible way. Have the lights hit the road, have the lights hit the sidewalk, not going into windows, use a moderate amount of light, use shielding where necessary, if the fixtures naturally can't do it. The safety piece is always going to be wanting more light. Why? Because so many people, I would say most of the people here are afraid of the dark. And you may not actually vocalize it. Usually women are a little clearer about it. Men will do passive aggressive weird stuff to say that they're not afraid of the dark, but they're really afraid of the dark too. Is that so many people are afraid of the dark. And that's why we have this, we need to have more light, more light, more light. You can install more light and more light and more light and more light, and there's no top to where it ends. That's not going to solve your problems.
I think you have to also be aware that LED streetlights, the brighter they are, the more difficult they are for people to see. They can easily cause glare if they're not, the fixture is not designed to reduce glare, or they're not shielded properly. They also, because the light is so directional, it's not diffused like we've always had with other types of light sources. So the light beams come out in a straight line, and they're strongest in the very center of that beam. They're like little flashlights, but high intensity flashlights. And so looking into the actual diodes can be blinding. And so the more you light and the more brighter you make the lights, not only does it cause glare, but it could also cause your ability not to see real well. But the other factor that LEDs do, because they are so bright, they also create very dark shadows where they don't show the light, where the light does not shine. And sometimes that cutoff can be quite distinct. So you'll have blacker blacks and brighter whites is the way to think about it. So you could walk in the shadows and somebody may not be able to see you, because the contrast between what's lit and what's not lit is such a strong factor. And so therefore you have to, that's why turning down the lights and running them in other words, dimming them really makes a lot of sense, because you begin to work with the grays colors rather than black and white, and you actually see form and shape better when you see shadows. So you have to be, it's kind of a, the best way you can approach it is to not look to shine them bright all the time, but only when you really need them to be bright.
Thank you. So, Dr. Quick, do you have any suggestions on how Easton can handle legacy or historic fixtures like acorn lamps while still staying compliant?
I'm sorry, Stacey, I didn't quite catch that last part.
So the question is how Easton could handle legacy or historic fixtures like acorn lamps while still staying compliant.
Okay, the historic fixtures can be very problematic, because with most of the historic fixtures, you did see the light source. So the best way to think about them, you can still have the housing look to be historic, but you have to place the light source in ways that people cannot see it. So you have to think about how can you place those diodes such that even looking up into the fixture, you don't see them. And so you can either do what we call downlight or uplight. So you're either shining the light down so that it's not going out sideways very much, or you shine it up and so it bounces off of a reflector to then come back down onto the ground, which diffuses it a bit. Both of those are found to be very effective ways of doing it. But anytime that you replace a globe or a lamp that you can see with an LED, you're causing immediate glare. So you want to keep that light source away from the view perspective of drivers as well as pedestrians.
I'd also add
you.
that if you're not trying to save that specific fixture but keep the shape to respect the harmony of the neighborhood, there are products now that are designed looking like the old acorn, but that are dark sky compliant already. So if you're not just converting the fixture, you could just buy something that looks similar to the old school while being already dark sky compliant.
I think the manufacturers are getting better now at realizing the problem. When they first came out, they would place the diodes right where you saw them. And the first experiments in Pittsburgh, which were done, 15 years ago, were just terrible. And we've learned a big lesson. And but the lighting manufacturers have come around to start thinking about addressing those problems of glare and brightness as well. So I think what you're seeing, as Flore mentioned, you're getting the shapes of the historic fixtures without the glare because they've just lit them differently.
To provide even more context on that, we use Spring City for the streetlights that we do own. They actually do produce a dark sky compliant model that maintains historic aesthetic and complies with dark skies completely.
So, Flore, from a planning perspective, what mechanisms, zoning overlays, design review, or site plan approval best enforce compliance?
So the piece here is that we own the streetlights, so there's no developer coming through design review or zoning overlay approval. So that doesn't really apply in this case.
I think that what Pittsburgh did was the lighting ordinance that was passed, which I think was actually a very good model. They applied the LED lighting code to only city-owned property, and that includes the streetlights, public parks, playgrounds, and so on. All city-owned property are under that lighting code. And the idea behind it was the city could be a good model for the citizens to understand what good lighting is like, and therefore they on their own private properties will also follow suit. But the lighting code in Pittsburgh does not affect private property. And that's a decision that Easton would need to make as to how you would, whether you want to make a distinction between public areas and private areas.
Yeah, if you want to get into private space, then you touch the building code, and in Pennsylvania, it's adopted at the state level. So it will be really hard to try to impose anything on the building owner. So it's better to lead by example on your own facility and in your street and create material to change the mind of the building owners.
Thank you. And Bill, are there any quick wins Easton could implement in the next 6 to 12 months to build momentum before a full ordinance is adopted?
There any quick wins that Easton could implement?
Yes.
Well, that's a really good question. I don't know. Steve, you have any thoughts on this one?
Well, one thing that we advocated for is to do some test areas where the residents can see what the lights are going to be like. You may take a block or several blocks in Easton to set them up and light them and leave them and get public opinion and get buy-in into the project. A lot of cities have done that, and they found the compliance and the acceptance of the streetlights were much more positive than going in and redoing everything without the residents' involvement.
We also, once we had our language down and our RFP out for the streetlight, we picked 9 fixtures in a street and asked the top 3 vendors to install their streetlight in the street so we could compare the product we would be getting and verify the dark sky compliance at the same time. So that's a further down the road type of effort once your RFP is out. Or you can try, you could invite vendors to replace 1 or 2 lights and see if anyone wants to do it. But I agree with Steve that getting the public to see would really make it more real and assuage some of the fears that come with dark sky and the wording around it.
Yeah, I also want to add, if you guys want a good example of small town, good implementation of lighting and lighting ordinances, I think Phoenixville, Pennsylvania might be a good one. I know that when you walk around that downtown there, it's really well done. Even the neighborhood's really well done, and you don't have gaps in the light. Like you have full visibility, and the fixtures and everything that's put in place is very well done.
Yes, I think this continuity you mentioned without break and a gap between the light is something that's happening for us too, and that the public is really, really satisfied and happy with. So LED really offer more control about where the light is going.
The only other thing I might add is that just you're going to find that your residents have very strong feelings about LEDs. The best way to really approach it is through education. The more your group can get out and talk about the LEDs and how you are looking to comply with dark sky recommendations and so on, I think that will build a lot of confidence in your program.
Thank you. And last question is open-ended for any of the panelists to answer. Is there anything else we should be asking as we embark on this journey?
You're asking all of the right question. I think adding the dark sky element to our project really brought a lot of attention to us, because we didn't just got the cheapest LED and change our life. We really thought about what would be beneficial to our residents, to our wildlife, to our community. And I really, dark sky is the right choice. You just have to develop the right language to convince your audience and invite them to come see what we're doing in Pittsburgh or other places. But I really think you don't want to miss the mark, because once you change your street light to LED, it's going to be 10, 15 years before you do it again. So I'm happy to come back as many times as you want and to keep making the case. So see.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would also add to that, saying, you know, the real question in my mind is, do we have a right to night? And, you know, do you want to have your community look like a factory, or do you want to have it look warm and cozy?
I think the only thing that your group, you should all become really aware of what the good aspects and also the questionable aspects about LED lighting is, so that you're all really knowledgeable, because you will get a lot of questions. And if your group can become sort of the local experts, that goes a long way in building confidence. And also making good selections, because there's a lot of factors in making the streetlight selections.
So I would like to thank our panelists for sharing their insights and experiences. Smart lighting isn't just about protecting the night sky, it's about preserving our community's character, enhancing quality of life, and creating a city where residents and visitors feel safe, welcome, and connected to the environment. Now we would like to open this up for a Q&A.
All right, everybody. So the way that I'd like to run this is, first, I'll give a chance to any of the members of the council to ask any questions. Then I'll open it up to people in the room, we'll have you state your name and your address. And then lastly, we'll look at anybody who is online. If you have any questions and want to raise your hand on Zoom, we'll take that and give you a shot to ask a question. You can also ask a question in the chat and we can read it out here as well. So first I'll throw it out to anybody else on the committee. So Paul.
I'd like to hear more about, was it Phoenixville, PA that was mentioned as being a model of a small city where the lighting was well done? Who was it who mentioned that?
I believe it was Bill.
Bill?
I think that was Bill.
Yep.
I just wanted to hear more about Phoenixville. Did they have a dark skies ordinance that sort of guided them in, the changes to the lighting of the city? And
Yep. Yeah, I can't speak to the fact if they have a true dark skies ordinance in effect. I know they do have a good ordinance in effect, but I would have to look that up for you. It's not something I've focused on, but I am aware that they are a good spot. So I'd have to check to see how the ordinance is. I don't know about the legal side.
okay, thank you.
So my question's really for any of the panelists. Do you have a ranking of what you would prioritize in terms of some of these light characteristics, in terms of, when we're thinking about temperature, dimness, shielding, things like that? If you have to sacrifice on something, what ranks highest, what ranks lowest?
I think, Ian, it's hard to separate them, because there's the light itself as the diode lighting, electronic lighting, and its potential and also the fixture itself, the luminaire. When it comes to the electronic lighting, this is a new type of lighting we've never had before, which means that it works just like a computer. You can, with controls, you can manage each street light individually. You can turn it off, you can turn it on, you can dim it and not dim any others, or you can do that in groups, or let's say by neighborhood, make changes. But the cost is almost the same cost as the fixture itself to add the controls to the system. So that's really something that you really need to debate. If you light the lights using photocells, they're going to be on full power for the time that light is illuminated. On the fixture itself, you want to look for a fixture which doesn't produce glare when you look at it out beyond let's say a 45 or a 53 degree cone. But as you view it from a distance, that you don't want to see any glare. And the other thing is the shielding. So you don't want it to trespass beyond the right-of-way, the legal right-of-way. In other words, that's the inside edge of your sidewalk in most cases, or it's where the property line is. You don't want any street light to go beyond those. color temperature, other than the amount of energy and brightness, is probably the next, that you want a warm color.
Thanks.
Do you have any recommendations on how to address people's personal lights? So lights that might be on someone's porch that are shining out, might have too high color temperature, things along those lines, without necessarily making it a code enforcement issue.
It's hard. Enforcement of any kind of code is very hard. And as soon as you start telling people what they can and can't do on their property, you either have to have a zoning code or a building code that addresses those items with somebody to review it and point it out. So it's done from let's say from a third party is making that distinction, rather than you as a neighbor telling your neighbor to change the light bulbs. A lot of cases that will just result in a lot of problems. We wish the manufacturers would become all dark sky compliant, so we don't have these floodlights, which are meant to throw light in all directions. And we really had more responsible solutions from the lighting industry itself, so that we don't have to have that kind of situation where you have to ask your neighbor to change their light fixture.
Mary?
This is for anyone on the panel, but I think Dr. Quick mentioned about educating ourselves as the people that are in the front that are gonna be questioned by the public and business owners and so on and so forth. Do you have any recommendations of literature, resources, or something that we should read, or a resource or source that would be best?
I recommend that you reach out to Dark Sky International. They're located out in Arizona and Tucson. They are there. They are a nonprofit organization. They are there to educate the public, and they have model lighting ordinances and a whole series of recommendations. They're also really open to working with communities to create better lighting. And so that would be my first, but all of you, if you would just go to their website and just look through it, there's a wealth of information there. I rely on it myself for most general recommendations. It's only when we got into very specific things that I was looking beyond that for other literature, but that's the best source that is out there.
Anybody else of the members or associate members of the EAC have any questions?
Actually, when you guys were going through and finding software to allow you to change lights individually or in groupings, were there any pitfalls for other software? Do you guys have like a thought process with what you ended up? Was that just a symptom of the dimmers that you had were only capable with the software that you're currently using?
It's there are now a number of lighting manufacturers that you buy your street lights from who have management software to run them, but you can also buy management software on the open market. So it just depends on what makes sense to you, in which way you want to go. But you do need management software, and you also need the server capacity to handle the number. Now, you don't have a lot in Easton, whereas in Pittsburgh, we're dealing with about 45,000. In other cities that have over 100,000 lights, the management systems become much more robust. But it sounded to me like the number of fixtures you have, the management systems that are available to you, whether private ones or ones that are proprietary with the manufacturers of the lights themselves. There's a lot out there for you to select from. It just depends also on how much the city can devote someone to manage that system, because everything will come into one location or one server or a bank of servers, and it takes somebody to administer that. But it also gives your public safety people, your police, your fire departments, EMT, and so on, ways to be able to control the lights from a phone, iPhones, or even a PC type phone. Which gives the ability for emergency people to either turn the lights on or off. In a lot of cases, the police like to turn the lights off in Pittsburgh because they have night goggles and they can see in the dark, so they can see movement and so on. But other cities, you may want to turn the lights on full blast if you have them on dimmers in a certain location to give you more light for emergency situations.
Okay, I'll open up to anybody present here in the room who has any comments or questions for the panel. Go ahead.
Go to the podium too, and the mic up there will pick it up for the Zoom call.
And if you could state your name and address. Yep.
Hi, my name's Jake Baylor on 28 South Raspberry Street. It's kind of awkward to talk about you. This is for the other gentleman, not Stephen. I'm so sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Bill.
Bill, sorry, Bill. When you brought up security, we work with an area that's really interested in maintaining security. You brought up two different studies, one within the US, I think you said University of Pennsylvania, and the other within the UK. You talked more about the UK's trends. Was the US study leaning in the same direction? And if not, are there other like regional resources that might also facilitate that conversation?
Yeah, lighting and security is a fun topic for some researchers, but it doesn't seem to be overall in the big picture. There doesn't seem to be much effect from light to deter or prevent crime. It may have an effect in small statistical variations to do that, and that's what the Leeds England study showed. Now, the study that I mentioned was a recent study from University of Pennsylvania that looked at the Philadelphia LED conversion, which is still in this process. They're trying to finish that up this year, but it's been occurring now for a handful of years. And what the city of Philadelphia did was they weaponized lighting in areas that were perceived as high crime, high accident areas, areas that had just a lot of crime in general. The University of Pennsylvania came in, there's some researchers there, and they looked to see if crime changed during the lighting. And what they found was that it did. The issue that I think was not well disentangled from the study was, were the lights the cause of that, or was it something else? So during this, the crime thing is a very complicated piece. During COVID, we saw national spikes in crime. In Philadelphia, DC, many cities saw big spikes in crime. Philadelphia is now back down to where they were in 2013, 2012, that area. And overall, in the last 20 years, we've seen the lowest amount of crime in major cities, including Philadelphia, except with the exception of COVID. And that COVID area, there's many thoughts about why that could have been the issue. But that COVID timeframe, we saw a lot more violent crimes, we saw a lot more murders, saw a lot of stuff like that. Now that study, the University of Pennsylvania study, is trying to say that the lights actually reduce the crime. I'm not sold on it. Maybe you'll have a different opinion, but that's not the only study out there. There's plenty of studies out there. And they fall into usually this one bucket, is that you have communities that are studied, and if there is a positive impact on crime, it's because there's gentrification, some kind of investment in the daytime community that then will show that like the nighttime is not as bad as it was. And then on the other end, if you have the studies that don't show an impact in crime, usually show that there was no change, like the Chicago study, that there was no change in crime. I believe it was no change in crime I'm saying that I don't think crime went up, but I believe there's no change in crime when they lit up the whole city, all the alleyways and everything. There's a study out there that shows, when you turn off street lights in an area, you actually see a reduction in crime. So the studies themselves are not like rock solid. They don't really implicate lighting as the key driver, honestly. There are other variables that are much more impactful, and lighting is a variable in there, but it's not the heavy weight that we want to give it.
Pittsburgh did some preliminary work, and were quite vocal about it. They were looking for lighting equality and equity. We had a lot of neighborhoods in Pittsburgh which people had moved out of, and a lot of deterioration had taken place, and where if a street light went out, it was not replaced. So the city started out with, let's make lighting equal for everybody across the city. That was the #1 goal of the relamping project. But another thing to keep in mind is that the highest rate of crime occurs during daylight hours, when people can see better. So just keep that in mind. And whatever factors there are, the amount of light, and you can make it brighter, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be safer.
I just want to caveat, when we say safety, we're talking absolute crime, talking quantification of crime. When people say safety, typically they mean the feeling of safety. And a feeling of safety is a place. It's not a hard number, right? And that's what, when you look to, that comes down to the community, it comes down to the design of, your road structure and your neighborhoods and stuff like that. That is a place. That's not the quantification of numbers. So if someone doesn't feel safe, they cannot feel safe in a very bright area. They cannot feel safe in a dark area. That's just really, we'll try and say that light makes you feel safer, but really it's not that. It's the environment that the person sits in. That's how they perceive their safety.
Thank you.
And to add to that too, Jacob, there's also like the counter argument of if it's well lit at night, it's also easier for the criminal to see, if we're talking just hard statistics. But yeah, the feeling of community almost matters more.
Honestly, as
Yeah.
long as it doesn't that
If someone's coming at you with a gun and you see them, you're not going to feel any safer than if you didn't see them. It doesn't make a difference. If they're coming at you, they're coming at you.
They'll do it later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Julie Sondo Dennis, 1032 Lehigh Street. I wondered if there was an ideal Kelvin for the migratory bird season, and whether there have been any studies from Audubon, or would it be
Well,
lower or higher?
An ideal, you
25.
say Kelvin?
Yeah.
Um,
Steve said that the lights should be turned down to 2200 or 2700 Kelvin. I wondered if there have been any studies at those levels.
Well, most cities, when they do preference studies, the incandescent 100-watt light bulb has really been the general standard, which everybody uses as the kind of, quote, the ideal light. The 2700 Kelvin is that number. It is a mixture of, it's still a warm light, but it is a mixture of all of the colors. The 2200 is a yellow-orange type of light, which you get with the high-pressure sodium lights. It's not good for color rendition and other factors. The astronomers like it because they can filter that light out and therefore see past the glow in the sky by filtering out the other colors. I mean, on filtering out the yellow-orange light. But the 3000 is about the, let's say, the coolest you would want to get. A 2700 is probably where most cities are going now for their residential lighting.
And the question, if there's studies out there that shows specifically color light, how it affects birds.
Yeah, migratory bird patterns.
Yep. So oftentimes with birds, it's not necessarily the color lighting, although in general, the rule of thumb for ecology, most studies will show that warmer, better, and that's because it's a longer wavelength. It's not a shorter wavelength that usually has a greater impact on pretty much everything from trees to insects to birds to mammals. But for birds, most of the studies show that just light in general, it doesn't really come down to the color as much as the impact from actual light. And this is why you have lights out programs, because there's tower lights. So the general light that you're going to have, like here in Philadelphia, we have the Comcast tower, which is a giant vape that sticks up out of the ground and lights up from pretty much top to bottom, right? So that when that goes out, it's essentially not acting as a torch for the birds. So it's a light in general. Lighting for birds goes back over 100 years, back to lighthouses that, they used to collect birds because birds would just slam into lighthouses. It's a very known thing. So really it's the light, it's the actual impact of light itself that allures birds. And researchers don't necessarily understand why that attraction is there, but that seems to be the general attraction.
What they seem to have found in the reading that I've done is that the birds have always followed migratory patterns by being able to see the stars and the Milky Way. And as soon as you have light, which is equivalent or even brighter than that, they're used to going towards the light. And so therefore, cities, they're attracted to cities simply because there's more light and there's more sky glow lighting up the sort of a dome over the city of light bouncing off clouds and so on. So it's like putting, as Bill mentioned, torches. Cities really act as torches to draw the birds because the light is brighter than the starlight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the room? Are there any questions online? Okay.
I'll restate, we had one question from Heidi Shiver, president of Birdtown, PA, who was looking for recommendations on motion sensors and timing that could be used for commercial and business areas. And Flore suggested that darksky.org has product recommendations.
Great. All right, well, if that's it, then let's all take a moment to thank our panelists, Dr. Quick, Flore Marion, and Bill McGeeney, and also thank Stacy for putting all this together today to really, I think, I'm sorry, I can't avoid the pun, illuminate all of our options for the dark skies movement going forward. So once again, thanks for your participation and your time, and to everyone else who joined us as well. So thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, so moving on to the next item in the agenda is public comments. If there are any general public comments from the rest of the attendees or anyone online.
Actually, I had a question that didn't involve the panel, but more related to dark sky.
Okay.
Okay. My questions are more towards Brandon, and particularly a lot of these issues that since 2/3 of the lights are going to be done by Med-Ed. Do we know like what type of color lights they're installing? You mentioned they're not putting in dimmers, but
Yeah, so Tom asked just what temperature Meta is installing. Glad you actually asked. We did bring this up and I requested, really Stacy and I together requested that Meta implement any change to be 2700 Kelvin. I kind of explained to them, there's no point in putting in 3000 or higher, which is what I believe their standard actually is, only to 5 years down the road, upgrade a different light at 2700. That is just poor planning. And they took that internally. I have not received an update yet. But I made sure to just let them know, you know, before you guys order lights, let's definitely make a solid decision together. And unify all 1278 lights or 77 lights. Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Anything else online? No. Okay. All right, so let's move on to the reports. So the first report is from Kate Simmons on the climate action plan. Kate, were you able to join?
It was here, but has left.
Okay. We'll move on then to the green spaces. Ian?
So I met with Brandon and we discussed some of the issues that we're having with the city's GIS account. I'm going to continue to follow up on those issues in the month of September. And if we get a good resolution about the best way to proceed so that we are doing the green spaces survey in a cost-effective way for the city, then I'll get information out to members so that we can resume data collection. Hoping to get into finishing up Westward and looking at Southside and College Hill likely later September and October if we can iron out the issues. And that's all I have this evening.
Ian, is it worth it for us to try to like start working on those areas without using the actual GIS, but just trying to note down things on our own, or should we just table it for the short term?
I think we'd have a real challenge to try to integrate hand collected data in with what we've collected so far. So before we went that way, I'd probably want to just wrap up the data we've collected, make a report based on it, and then perhaps go into something like that and try to add that in. But I don't think doing it simultaneously would really be effective.
Okay. Great, thank you. Next up, we have transportation. I do not have anything to report on transport. Oh wait, actually, I'm sorry. We did have the grant announcement last month for the streetscape improvements along Larry Homes in Northampton. But other than that, I do not have an update on transportation this month. So waste and recycling, Mary?
So just to follow up with the cleanups, we will still have a cleanup this month.
Mary, can you just be a little more careful? Sorry.
Sorry.
It's very,
Better?
yes, much.
Okay. Westward will have a cleanup tomorrow night from 5, we moved it to 5 to 6. So if anybody would like to come out, we'll have that cleanup up there in those higher street numbers. And in October, we're moving the Westward Market cleanup from October 1st to the 8th. And it will also be from 5 to 6. And I'm looking forward to October's first market day, October 4th at the downtown farmers market on Saturday, and see if we need to change that. Is someone clarify, is that Garlic Fest? And I believe there is no farmers market, correct? So I'd like to make a change to October 11th. Would that be okay? October 11th to make the cleanup for the downtown market, beginning at 8:30. And I would like to check November's date for Bacon Fest, because I believe they also do not have. So it's Bacon Fest October or November 1st.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So I would like to change that cleanup date to November 8th.
Sounds good.
It's good.
Do we have cleanup on this Saturday?
Is it the first of the month? Yes, we do.
Yep.
September 6th, correct. We will have a cleanup, 8:30, we meet down at Scott Park.
And just to let you know, there is a currently unannounced event October 11th, that I will probably be inviting the AC to as well that morning from 11 AM to 1 PM. So just to be aware of any future scheduling conflicts that might be a problem.
Okay.
I have one more thing to add. Thank you, Stacy. West Ward is having a cleanup and a pizza social on September 27th. Does it say what time? What is it? Yeah, we'll get back to you with the time on that.
I think it starts around 10.
10 AM,
10 to 12, yeah.
10 to 12, thank you.
What day of the week is that?
It's a Saturday, September 27th. I'll come out for pizza.
10 to 12 now.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Robert, communications?
Hello, so when it comes to this, I don't have too much to report, just research on, events related to climate change is still ongoing. I will report in October on any findings regarding.
Okay. Brendan, sustainability?
Yeah, so a lot of what I've been doing is the med light reporting, but for Rob's sake as well, the Hazelnut Fest was canceled. We will be announcing a replacement event, which is what I just mentioned. Coming up, one of the big things is next week I'll be presenting a interim climate action plan goal to City Council to meet the requirements of our CDP reporting. Our CDP reporting feedback was given to us last year. This is something we participate in yearly under the Global Covenant of Mayors, which Mayor Salapanto is a part of. The feedback was only given about a month and a half, 2 months ago, and our due date for adjusting to said feedback is next 2 weeks from now. One of the adjustments that was recommended to improve our grade was to pass an interim goal. That's actually a requirement to move from an A- to an A. So it's a little bit of a rush, but Kate and I will be dual presenting next Tuesday with a PowerPoint to try and get that passed in time for this year's reporting. Worst case scenario, we try and get done for next year, the following year.
Tuesday?
Next Tuesday, yes, at the committee meeting.
It's at the committee meeting. so
Yes.
Not at the council meeting itself on Wednesday.
No, we'll be presenting with PowerPoint on the Tuesday committee meeting, and then I did put in the resolution for voting on the following day, next Wednesday.
Okay, I believe that we did approve the support of that interim goal at last month's meeting. So if anyone can make it to the Tuesday committee meeting, let me know. And then I will try to attend the council meeting on Wednesday. Okay, moving on to membership updates. I was hoping to get an update from Kate on the work that she was doing with the Lafayette Capstone class, to see if they were able to, if there was any interest in having one of those students become the associate member from Lafayette. Barring that, I'll just reach out to Felicia and have her take a look at sending that out to students. And then did we send out the comment to Tracy to start advertising the open position on the EAC? Well, actually it was to Ian or Robert. I wasn't sure who's handling that, but.
Oh, you look strange.
Yeah. Okay, let's make sure that we get that, that advertisement out to Tracy, this month so that we can start requesting the new, requesting.
Generally, those communications come from the chair, Nick. Do you want one of the other members to send them out?
I had expected that it would come from the communications committee, but I can send it out this week as well.
Otherwise, since I have had some of that materials from my prior chairship, I could also do that if you want to appoint.
I'll take care of it.
Robert says online that he can send it out by what day, so maybe catch up with the two of us after.
Okay. All right, those are the reports.
Nothing I can think of. Rob's still working on finishing the USDN grant requirements for tree plantings, as well as new bare roots that were required, and then him and I are planning the aforementioned unnamed event to be named soon.
That is not Hazelnut Fest.
That is not Hazelnut Fest, correct, but it will still be occurring October 11th. I'll be reaching out to community partners that will be tabling, which is the AC, if someone from the AC is willing at that date, but yeah, to be announced soon.
Okay. Thank you. Brendan, are there any other environmental initiatives that the council should be aware of that we can weigh in on or help support in any way?
The big one I would say is that I think you guys already know about this though. The Lehigh Valley Environmental Advisory Council committee are working on a plastic discussion in regards to banning plastics. I personally have brought this up internally, and that Dave Hopkins, Public Works Director, is more than okay with us running some kind of proposal to council for trial or for further consideration. I believe it's a massive need, and to be fair, I also think it's a regional need. If we ban plastic here in Easton, someone can just go to Forks Township, buy their groceries there, bring a plastic bag back anyway. So that is something that I think is done stronger in unison, and the sustainability coordinators from Allentown and Bethlehem both agree wholeheartedly as well. So yeah, that would be the number one. That dark skies, which everyone's doing fantastic on. So keep pushing for those two. And then the last thing is I'm currently working with Nurture Nature Center to propose a regional environmental COG that would unify the valley for joint ordinances, projects, etc. So when the time comes to mention that, I will let you guys know.
Thank you. All right, moving on to new business. Is there anything not on the agenda that anybody wants to discuss tonight?
It was that.
Make sure your mic's on.
Well, right.
Oh, there you go.
It's working now.
No, it was.
Is it working now?
Yeah.
Okay. There was that Lehigh Valley EAC network meeting in Bethlehem a couple months ago, 3 months ago, and they suggested maybe having breakfasts in rotation, sponsored by one of the EACs. And the first one in July was in Allentown. And we had this email from Rebecca Inez asking if there were any volunteers for hosting the breakfast for September. Well, it's already September, and I don't know what came about. But they want to do it every other month. And I was gonna ask if Easton EAC could offer to host it in November.
Yes, we will. I say we do.
We need to move to do that.
I make a motion that Easton EAC hosts the next LVEAC meeting, breakfast meeting in November. Date to be announced and location to be announced.
Okay,
We'll put the.
I'm gonna suggest Billy's, which is.
Hang on.
Yeah.
Hold on.
All right, so let's do this right. So Mayor, can you restate that? I'm sorry, I didn't get it all down.
I'd like to make a motion that the Easton EAC offers to host the next Lehigh Valley breakfast meeting in November with a date and location to be announced.
So Mary has moved that the Easton AAC offers to host the next LVEAC breakfast meeting in November with the date to be announced. Is there a second?
I second it.
Are we proposing it generally, or is someone volunteering to take the lead and schedule and do the communications?
I will take the lead and communicate with Rebecca Inez.
I can't say.
Is there a second?
Oh,
Is there? Robert, did you second?
Robert seconded.
Okay. Let's have a quick round of discussion on this. So I guess, Stacy, you're up first. If you have any comments or things you want to state about the motion.
No. Yeah. But, so I think it's a terrific idea. You know, the last time we had a meeting with the other EACs, a lot came out of it. I definitely think that we should have the sustainability coordinator, Brandon, along with their sustainability coordinators and managers involved with this meeting as well, to see how we can all support each other, the EACs and coordinators.
You and Mary attended the last breakfast meeting in June.
Correct.
How many people attended?
I believe it was 7.
7. So it's a tighter group than like having the full
That is correct.
everybody attend. Okay. I guess my one concern is just where we would want to hold this, and do we need to organize it ahead of time with that restaurant, or were you able to just, because it was only 7 people, just attend any restaurant?
I think that's going to have to play out once we send out the invite, see how many people, and then approach the location. And that's what they had done, to see how many said they would attend, and then they sought out dining.
Okay.
So I think it would be quite easy, considering how many different restaurants are available in Easton now.
Yep. Ian, Robert, did you have any comments on this?
I'm not certain that we would actually need an action to do something like this, that it doesn't advance to the specific business, but I don't have any particular problems with it.
I'm in the same, I don't believe that we really need a motion for this, despite my seconding, but I do believe that this is a good thing to do.
We need a motion for everything, Robert. Please now. Okay, all right, so with everybody having commented, any of the associate members have anything to add? No, okay, then barring any objection, we'll close debate and vote. All in favor of us offering to host the next EAC breakfast meeting in November with the date to be announced and Mary to take lead on communications, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Stacy, did you vote?
Yeah.
All right, so that passes 5-0. Anything else for new business? Then is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'll second that
All in
motion.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you, everybody. Have a great week.